The first thing that hit me as I walked into the gala wasn't my husband. It wasn't the board members we were meant to impress or the sponsors who'd flown in for the night. It was the diamond necklace resting against Harper's throat, my mother's necklace. The room tilted. My chest tightened. That necklace should have been locked away in my jewelry box, untouched. And there she was, Nathan's mistress, flaunting it like a prize in front of 100 people. I froze mid-step, every whisper slicing at me. Isn't that Isabella's? Oh my God, he gave it to her. Wait, Harper's married. Isn't her husband a surgeon? My ears filled with noise and then nothing. The world shrank to Harper's smug smile as she tilted the chain so it caught the light. She wanted me to see. She wanted everyone to see. And Nathan, my husband, my partner of 10 years, sat beside her like she belonged there, his hand resting on her leg as if nothing was amiss. When our eyes met, he didn't flinch. He only smirked as if I were the fool in this story. Rage powered my steps as I walked straight to them. Where did you get that necklace? My voice was sharp, loud enough to reach the nearest tables. Harper's fingers toyed with the pendant like it was hers by right. Nathan gave it to me, she said, sweet and daring me to lose it. Laughter and conversation blurred into background noise. All I could hear was my own blood. My mother had worn that necklace the night before she died. It was the last piece of her I had left, now dangling from the woman who'd been sharing my husband's bed. I turned to Nathan. You stole from me. From my family, he waved me off as if I were overreacting. It was gathering dust, Isabella. Don't make a scene. The words exploded inside me. Don't make a scene, as if he hadn't already made me the spectacle. Harper leaned back, her smile widening. Maybe he just wanted someone who actually appreciates it, she said, the audacity of it raw. Everyone in this city knew her husband was a respected doctor. Yet here she was, throwing daggers in public like she had nothing to lose. My hand moved before reason did. The slap cracked across her cheek, sharp enough to silence the room. Gasps rippled. Phones rose. Harper's arrogance vanished in an instant. Nathan lunged up, voice low and furious. What the hell is wrong with you? He demanded. I stared him down, chest heaving. What's wrong with me? You humiliate me in front of everyone we know. You hand my mother's necklace to your mistress and expect me to sit there and smile. Silence stretched. Cameras recorded. Some people hid shocked laughter behind their hands. Others watched wide-eyed, devouring the moment. I leaned toward Harper, my words bitter. Keep it. You'll need something to pawn when this falls apart. Anger replaced her composure. I didn't wait for Nathan's excuses or for sympathetic looks. I turned and walked out, every step driven by something fiercer than heartbreak. Outside, the air cut into my face, but my hands were steady. Nathan thought he'd broken me. Harper thought she'd replaced me. They had no idea what they'd unleashed. I promised myself that night I wouldn't be reduced to crying into pillows or begging for explanations. I would strip him of everything he valued, his money, his reputation, his spotless image. And when Harper's perfect little life shattered, she'd know exactly who swung the hammer. Humiliation wouldn't be my end. It would mark the start of their downfall. When Nathan and I first married, I felt like I'd hit the jackpot. He was charming and ambitious, the kind of man who drew a room in. I gave up a promising corporate PR career to help him chase his dream of building a company. At the time, it felt like partnership. I told myself we were building a life together, even when that meant I carried the bills, the childcare, and the endless hours waiting for him to come home. I poured my inheritance into his business, every dollar my mother had left me. She'd been a teacher who pinched pennies her whole life, leaving me something to feel safe with. I signed those checks because Nathan promised, once this takes off, we'll never worry again. I believed him. Belief was my mistake. 2 years later, our daughter Mia was born. I raised her while Nathan expanded the company, soothing her colicky nights, reading bedtime stories with one eye open, holding her hand at doctor visits while Nathan networked somewhere else. Milestones became mine to live and his to hear about in passing. Still, I defended him to anyone who asked. He's working for us, I'd say. It'll be worth it. In hindsight, the warning signs weren't subtle. Late nights at the office bled into weekends. business trips that didn't align with receipts I found in his pockets, texts from colleagues that felt a little too intimate. When I confronted him, he flipped it on me, paranoid, insecure, ungrateful, and I swallowed my doubts because I was terrified of toppling the life I'd built. The necklace was the last straw, but the cracks had been forming for years. I should have noticed when he canceled our 10th anniversary dinner claiming he was swamped, only for a photo to appear the next morning, Nathan smiling with Harper at a charity event. I should have noticed when his phone became a fixture in his hand, face down whenever I entered a room. But the moment denial died came from Mia. One afternoon, she wandered in from school, coloring at the kitchen table, and said casually, "Mommy, I saw Daddy eating lunch with a pretty lady. She had shiny hair and laughed a lot. He bought her flowers after." I gripped the counter until my knuckles ached and wanted to scream, to tear the ceiling down. Instead, I forced a smile and told her not to worry. She didn't deserve to carry her father's choices. That night, Nathan came home smelling of a cologne I'd never owned, and the lies stopped being shadows. They were standing in my kitchen, bold and smirking. Part of me still wanted to deny it, to believe I could fix it if I tried harder. But when Harper wore my mother's necklace at the gala, and Mia described that pretty lady with total innocence, denial was finished. Nathan hadn't just betrayed me. He'd betrayed the family I'd built, the sacrifices I'd made, the trust I handed him like a gift. He'd used everything I gave to carve out a life with someone else. The stakes were no longer only heartbreak. They were financial, legal, maternal. He thought he could humiliate me and keep control. He was wrong. The morning after the gala, I stared at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. Mascara smeared under tired eyes, lips cracked, hair limp. I'd spent years making myself small for Nathan, telling myself those sacrifices were noble. But replaying Harper's smirk and that necklace, something inside me hardened. The humiliation burned away and left something cold, sharp, and alive. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't cry or plead. I was going to make him pay. Step one was money. Nathan had assumed I was just a housewife who didn't understand finances, forgetting that I had written the early checks. Every contract, every transfer, every investor pitch, I had been there. I still had access. That morning, I logged into our accounts and froze what I could: joint cards, company credit lines tied to my name, even the household account he used for day-to-day spending. In under an hour, I cut off half his lifelines. Next was the lawyer. I called the one friend I knew would drop everything for me. "Marissa," I said, thinking of the woman who'd once represented a client's wife in a brutal divorce. "I need someone ruthless, someone who doesn't care about keeping things civil." By lunchtime, I had an appointment. Then I began packing, not because I planned to leave immediately, but because I wanted him to know I could. I boxed my most valuable things: Mia's baby albums, the heirlooms he hadn't taken, important documents. Each item I removed from the shelves reminded me of what I'd carried alone while he chased Harper. I stacked the boxes by the door, a visible warning. This house, this life could disappear with me whenever I chose. Word trickled back by evening. Nathan tried to run his card at a hotel bar and it was declined. He called twice, then 3 times, and left a voicemail threaded with anger. "What the hell did you do? This isn't funny, Isabella." Funny, the word he used as if my life were a joke to be played. I ignored the calls and kept moving. I started lists, assets in my name, forgotten accounts, documents I could use as leverage. The more I wrote, the calmer I became. Every line was a weapon, and I was finally remembering how to fight. When Mia went to bed, I sat alone in the quiet house and felt the first flicker of control return. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for Nathan to come home or hoping for scraps of attention. I was setting the pace. The phone lit again. His name. I let it ring out and then listened to his voicemail. This time his voice wasn't angry. It was panicked. "Isabella, please just pick up. Let's talk. Don't do anything stupid. You don't understand how this could affect the company." I laughed, startling even myself. He still believed this was about protecting his company, his reputation. He hadn't realized I didn't care about saving him. I cared about destroying him. I deleted the voicemail, closed my notebook of plans, and poured a glass of wine. Tomorrow I would meet with the lawyer. Tomorrow the real war would begin. For now, it was enough to know one thing. The man who once thought he controlled everything had felt the ground shift, and I was pulling it out from under him. By week's end, Nathan's polished life began to fray. It started like a loose thread in a suit. His favorite restaurant declined his card. His assistant couldn't book his flight to Dallas. The company accountant left 3 frantic voicemails about frozen accounts. I didn't answer. I wanted him to sit in the silence and feel the discomfort of not knowing how much I controlled. By Friday, his calls became relentless. First anger. Isabella, you've lost your mind. You can't do this. Then bargaining. Let's sit down. Talk this out. You don't have to go nuclear and finally panic. You're hurting yourself too. Don't you get that? What he couldn't understand was that the old version of me, the one terrified of his displeasure and clinging to the illusion of marriage, was gone. I wasn't hurting myself. I was freeing myself. In Memphis, news travels fast. Business isn't just contracts and deals. It's whispers over cocktails, reputation traded like currency. By Saturday, the whispers were open talk. A friend sent screenshots of a group chat. Women trading jokes about Nathan's side piece wearing the wife's jewels. Some pitying me, others praising me for slapping Harper. Sympathy wasn't what I wanted, but the attention was useful. At church on Sunday, Mrs. Cartwright, one of the older women, slipped up to me after service. "Don't let him crawl back, honey," she said, her grip fierce, eyes sharp. Men like him only learn when they lose. Support began to pile up in places Nathan never imagined. Meanwhile, Harper's perfect veneer was cracking. A mutual acquaintance told me her husband, Dr. Mitchell, confronted her after the gala, demanding to know why half the city had seen her. Draped in another man's arms, wearing a necklace that wasn't hers, she shrugged it off as business. Doctors don't take humiliation lightly. I knew his patience wouldn't hold forever. Nathan tried to seize control by showing up unannounced Monday evening. Mia was upstairs doing homework when I heard the pounding on the door. I cracked it open and saw him, flushed, jaw tight, eyes frantic, attempting to push inside. I blocked him. "Isabella, stop this nonsense," he snapped. "You're making us both look ridiculous. Do you realize what people are saying about me? About you?" I crossed my arms. "About you?" "Yes." "About me?" "They're calling me brave." He scoffed and ran a hand through his hair. "You think freezing accounts and throwing tantrums makes you strong? You're ruining everything I built." I leaned against the frame, cool and corrected. "Everything we built, with my inheritance, my years, my silence while you played house with Harper." His face hardened. "So this is about the money," he said. I laughed, bitter and sharp. "This is about respect, something you can't buy no matter how many women you drape in stolen jewelry." He flinched, tried to pivot. "We can fix this. We'll spin it. I'll apologize. You'll stand by me. People will forget." "Stand by you?" I echoed, low. "I'd rather burn it all than be your prop again." For a second, I saw the man beneath the mask. Desperate, cornered, dangerous. He wanted to lash out but couldn't risk it. Mia was upstairs. Neighbors could hear. He spat, "You'll regret this." I shut the door. Inside, I breathed slowly, steadying my trembling hands. Adrenaline, not fear. For the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was directing. That night, I tucked Mia in and watched her sleep. Small chest rising and falling, oblivious to the storm her father had unleashed. I swore she never would be burdened by him. She would see strength, not tears. She would see a mother who refused to be broken. Nathan had tasted losing control for the first time. The man who prided himself on never being blindsided was stumbling, reaching for a rope I'd already cut. It was only the beginning. The restaurant buzzed when I walked in. Low light, polished, floors, the clink of glasses where Memphis power players sealed deals. Nathan thought he'd won by choosing the venue, hosting investors and parading Harper like a trophy. I wasn't there to dine. I was there to end the performance. I found them at once. Nathan, smooth and suited. Harper beside him, laughing too loud, brushing his arm at every chance. Around the table sat 4 investors and their wives, people who'd once toasted my loyalty and sacrifices, now smiling at Harper as if she'd always belonged. I entered with my head high, every eye swung to me. Nathan's smile faltered. Harper's smug curve of a grin returned, the same one that haunted my dreams. "Isabella?" Nathan began, rising halfway, voice practiced and calm. "This isn't the time." "Sit down," I cut him off, my voice sharper than the silverware glinting on the table. "You've done enough talking. Tonight I get the floor." A hush dropped over the table. No one moved. I fixed Harper with my stare. "Tell me, Harper, does your husband know where you are tonight?" Her smile faltered for the briefest beat, enough for an investor's wife to shift in her seat. Nathan's eyes darted between us. "Don't," he muttered under his breath. But it was too late. "Funny thing," I continued, loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. "Your husband's colleagues at St. Jude's still think you're happily married. I wonder what Dr. Mitchell would say if he saw you here, wearing stolen jewelry on the arm of a man who can't even keep his own house intact." Gasps swept the room. Harper's color bled away. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I?" she stammered. I pointed toward the entrance, every head turned, and there he was. Dr. Mitchell, crisp white shirt, coat slung over his arm, fury and heartbreak written across his face. I'd arranged to meet him after I'd shown him the evidence, the photos, the receipts. Proof that Harper wasn't just cheating, she was flaunting it. The silence tightened as he approached the table. Harper's breath hitched, her hands trembled, hidden in her lap. "Harper," his voice cut through, low, steady. "How long did you think you could play me for a fool?" Her chair scraped back as she rose, flailing for words. It's not what it looks like." "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I snapped, stepping forward. "You've been parading around this city like the queen of someone else's empire, and you had the gall to do it in front of me, wearing my mother's necklace. But you forgot one thing. You weren't just betraying me. You were betraying him." "Doctor." Mitchell's jaw tightened. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and set it on the table with a dull thud. "That's your wedding ring," he said. "You can pawn that too, since you seem to like living off other people's husbands." The table erupted, investors whispering, wives staring, servers frozen. Harper crumpled into her chair, pale and frantic-eyed. Nathan raised his hands, trying to contain it. "This isn't the place for drama," he pleaded. "No, Nathan," I cut him off, voice rising. "This is exactly the place, because you wanted to humiliate me in public. You paraded her in front of everyone we know. Now the truth's out in public, too." I leaned in so each word landed. "Your mistress isn't a prize. She's a liar, a cheater, a wife who's just been disowned by her husband. And you? You're nothing more than her accomplice." Phones were up again, screens glowing, recording and posting. I could already see the captions. "CEO and Mistress exposed at dinner. Wife drags in Mistress's husband." Nathan's face flushed. Harper buried her head in her hands. Dr. Mitchell turned and left, his silence louder than any scream. I smoothed my skirt, looked the investors in the eye and said, "Do business with him if you want, but remember what kind of man you're tying yourselves to." Then I walked out. Behind me, the room exploded. Voices, scraping chairs, reputations unraveling in real time. On the sidewalk, the night air hit me cold and sharp. For the first time in months, I felt taller, lighter. Nathan had tried to script the story and paint me as the bitter wife, the charming victim in his little drama, but the city had seen the truth, and this was only the second act. He didn't disappear after the restaurant. Humiliation made him louder. By the following week, his PR machine roared to life, a glossy magazine interview full of crocodile tears and staged vulnerability. A headline blaring, "CEO speaks out, betrayed by wife, hunted by lies." He cast himself as the hard-working visionary, blindsided by a vindictive spouse. "I made mistakes," he admitted with a practiced sigh. "But Isabella has exaggerated and twisted things. I still love my family. I hope she remembers that." He never said Harper's name. He didn't have to. The world already filled in the blanks. He painted her as an innocent colleague swept up in a storm, and watching it made my stomach turn, not because of the lies, I'd expected those, but because I could see how neatly strangers might swallow them. He looked the part, tailored suit, weary eyes, hands clasped as if begging forgiveness. I knew the performance, others might not. For a breath I worried. What if he spun this so well people would see me as the bitter wife trying to destroy a successful man? That worry lasted 12 hours. Then the leaks began. Screenshots, emails, hotel receipts, proof he hadn't merely had an affair. He'd financed it with company money. Spa visits billed as consulting. Weekend getaways labeled networking. Late-night messages that weren't flirtation. But instructions. Use the card ending in 4211, baby. She won't notice. The first leak landed on Twitter one Tuesday morning. By lunch, it was everywhere. Instagram Reels, TikTok stitches, LinkedIn think pieces on corporate ethics. By evening, Nurchar Necklace Gate was trending. Photos of Harper wearing my mother's necklace at the gala sat beside scanned receipts. Memes multiplied. Nathan's smug face pasted onto Monopoly cards that read, "Go directly to divorce court." I didn't have to lift a finger. Quiet allies amplified the evidence. Journalists dug in. Former employees whispered about shady deals and after-hours meetings with Harper. Nathan's empire didn't just crack, it imploded. His response was predictable. He went live, a shaky Instagram video from his office, sleeves rolled, eyes red. The leaks were fake, he said, fabricated to smear him and his company. My wife, he corrected himself mid-sentence, my arranged wife has gone too far. The comment section demolished him. Screenshots don't look fake. You stole your wife's mom's necklace, bro. Sit down, where's Harper? Haven't seen her since her husband dumped her at that restaurant. By the end of the live stream, more people laughed than sympathized. Clips of him stammering were remixed and shared. One moment, him insisting, "I've always respected women," was looped over footage of Harper draped in his lap until the internet chewed him up and spat him out. Harper disappeared. No public appearances, no posts. Rumor said she moved into a hotel after Dr. Mitchell kicked her out. I almost felt sorry. Almost. That night Nathan called, voice raw with panic. "Isabella, please. You have to stop this. We can fix it together. Just tell them it's lies." I laughed, harsh and empty. Fix it? You humiliated me, stole from me, and still want me to prop up your lies? No, Nathan. You fix this yourself. He tried softer. Think about Mia. She doesn't deserve this circus. The word cut, but only briefly. Mia deserved truth, not a polished mask. A mother who stood firm, not one who caved to manipulation. I'm thinking about her, I said, voice even. That's why I won't let you rewrite the story. I hung up. The next morning, another wave hit. Audio recordings of him slurring into a phone, bragging about how easy it was to keep me in line. She's too loyal to leave. I could burn the house down and she'd still beg me to stay. That clip spread faster than anything else. Hashtags multiplied. Beg me to stay trended for days. A rallying cry for women sharing their own stories of betrayal and survival. What Nathan meant as cruelty became his undoing. By week's end, sponsors were pulling out of his company. One investor released a statement citing ethical concerns, while headlines speculated whether bankruptcy was inevitable. Nathan had always craved the spotlight. Now it was burning him alive. And I didn't have to shout or beg. All I had to do was stand still while the world saw him for what he really was. For years, he controlled the story, the image, the narrative, the myth of us. But now the script was mine, and I wasn't done writing it. By the time the lawyers dragged us into court, Nathan looked nothing like the man I'd married. His suits hung loose, his smile forced, his eyes twitching as if waiting for another blow. For years, he'd been untouchable, the golden boy with the sharp jaw and sharper tongue. Now he looked like what he was, cornered prey. My attorney Marissa was ruthless. She laid everything bare. The inheritance I poured into his startup, the funds funneled to Harper, the screenshots, the recordings. Each exhibit another nail in the coffin of his credibility. Nathan tried to object, to bluff his way through, but even his lawyer looked drained defending him. When Marissa projected the hotel receipts showing company money spent on his weekend trips with Harper, his face turned crimson. When she played the drunken recording, "She's too loyal to leave," I could burn the house down and she'd still beg me to stay. His head dropped into his hands. I sat still, not smug, not smiling, just steady. Because this wasn't about vengeance. This was reclamation. Taking back everything he thought he could strip from me. The judge's ruling came swift. I was awarded majority custody of Mia, the house, and a substantial share of the company since my inheritance had funded its birth. Nathan fought it, claiming I hadn't been involved in the business. Marissa countered with documents, advisory emails, and his own words crediting me for investor connections. When the gavel came down, the company was no longer his alone. The financial hit gutted him. Without access to the accounts, without investor confidence, the empire he'd built on my sacrifices began to fall apart. Contracts dissolved. Sponsors withdrew. His own board voted to remove him from decision-making. Nathan wasn't a visionary anymore. He was a liability. As for Harper, she'd vanished. After the restaurant confrontation and Dr. Mitchell's public rejection, she'd gone silent. Rumors swirled of divorce filings, property disputes, her name disappearing from charity boards. She'd become radioactive, and Nathan was left to choke on the ashes of their affair alone. The final blow came from his own family. His father, who'd always treated me with distant politeness, called one evening. His voice was heavy. "Isabella," he said, "I can't condone what my son has done. You'll have our support moving forward. Mia is still our granddaughter." It wasn't affection, it was acknowledgement. For years, I'd been the outsider at their polished dinners, the woman tolerated because I kept Nathan steady. Now I was the one holding the legacy. Nathan was the embarrassment they wanted erased. His brother went further. A statement released through his company declared, "We cannot in good conscience align with practices that violate both ethics and family trust." In business terms, it was a death sentence. Nathan's last safety net snapped. The house became mine officially within weeks. I walked through its halls with a box in hand, collecting the last traces of him, his suits, trophies, the smiling photos he'd insisted on keeping because they made us look perfect. One by one, they disappeared into storage. The walls felt lighter without him. Mia adjusted faster than I expected. She asked fewer questions about her father, though I often caught her studying me, quietly learning what strength looked like. And I made sure she saw it. No tears on the kitchen floor. No pleading phone calls, just calm, clear boundaries. When Nathan arrived for his visitation weekends, I met him at the door, handed Mia her bag, and said only what was necessary. Each brief exchange chipped away at him. At first he tried humor, then softened to pleading. "Isabella, we don't have to keep fighting." I met his gaze evenly. "You started this war when you dragged me through the dirt. Don't ask me to clean you up now." He hated that he couldn't shake me anymore. By the end of summer, the life he'd built had evaporated. His company shares were liquidated. His apartment lease defaulted. He moved into a cramped rental on the edge of town, a far cry from the penthouse suites he used to flaunt. The same people who once clung to his charm now crossed the street to avoid him. One afternoon, I overheard two women in the grocery store whispering as Nathan walked past, unshaven, clutching a six-pack of cheap beer. "That's him, right?" The one from Necklace Gate. Their laughter followed him out the door. I didn't smile, but I didn't stop them either. Humiliation was what he'd once wished for me. Now it was his to live with every single day. The irony cut deep. The man who once told me I'd be nothing without him was now nothing without me. His downfall wasn't fate. It was the direct result of every decision he made. And while part of me would always ache for the years I'd lost, for the sacrifices I could never reclaim, I also knew this. He had taught me never to underestimate myself again. Nathan was broke, isolated, and forgotten. Harper was gone. The legal war was finished. The financial ruin was complete. Even his family, who once turned a blind eye to his arrogance, now avoided his name. But this wasn't just about dismantling him. It was about rebuilding me. And for the first time in over a decade, I could do it on my own terms. It was close to midnight when the knock came. Heavy, relentless. The kind of knock that belonged to a man who no longer understood boundaries. I already knew who it was before I opened the door. Nathan stood there, rain-soaked, jacket clenched in one hand like he'd run the whole way. His eyes were frantic, his face hollow. This wasn't the Nathan who used to command boardrooms. This was a man hollowed out by his own ruin. "Isabella," he rasped, voice cracking. "Please, just hear me out." I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. "You shouldn't be here." He raked a trembling hand through his wet hair. "I don't know where else to go. Everyone's turned their back on me. The company, the investors, even my family. Harper's gone. I've lost everything. I didn't move." "You mean you've lost control?" "There's a difference." He winced but pushed on. "I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you, but you can't let this be the end of me. We built a life together. You can't just walk away like it meant nothing." The audacity nearly made me laugh. He was the one who handed our life to another woman, the one who paraded her in public wearing my mother's necklace. And now he wanted me to prop him up because the world finally saw him for what he was. "You didn't lose me because of one mistake, Nathan," I said quietly but firmly. "You lost me because you treated me like I was disposable. Like my sacrifices, my loyalty, my love meant nothing. And now you're standing here because you finally know what it feels like to be disposable yourself." His voice cracked. "I don't want to lose Mia." That hit deeper, but I stayed steady. "You didn't think about Mia when you were sneaking out of hotels with Harper. You didn't think about her when you humiliated her mother in front of the entire city. You don't get to use her name as your shield now." He stepped closer, rain dripping onto the hardwood floor. "I can change. Please, Isabella. Give me another chance. I'll do anything." I held his gaze, searching for even a flicker of the man I once believed in. But all I saw was desperation. Not love, not remorse, just a man clinging to the last person willing to open the door. "You think begging makes you different from the man who betrayed me?" I asked softly. "It doesn't. It just makes you pathetic." His shoulders slumped. Tears filled his eyes, unhidden. "I can't do this without you." For a moment, the silence stretched between us, heavy with everything we once were. And then I said it. "You're the architect of your own destruction, Nathan. Don't look at me to rebuild what you burned." The words hit like a final blow. His mouth opened, closed. He swallowed hard, but nothing came out. I stepped back, hand on the door. "Go home, wherever that is for you now, because it's not here." And then I shut the door. Through the glass, I watched him stand there, rain soaking him until he looked smaller, diminished. Eventually, he turned and walked into the night. No more pounding, no more pleading, just silence. I leaned against the door, exhaling slowly. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. The war was over. I had won. 6 months later, the house felt different, lighter. For years, it had been filled with Nathan's shadow, his late-night calls, his lingering cologne, his presence dominating every corner. Now, when I walked through the rooms, I felt only peace. The silence wasn't heavy. It was mine. Mia had blossomed in ways I hadn't realized were possible. She laughed freely, slept without nightmares, carried herself with a new ease. At 8 years old, she didn't know every detail, but she knew enough. Her father's choices had hurt us, and her mother had protected her. She saw me stand tall when it would have been easier to crumble, and I could already see that strength shaping her. I rebuilt my career, too. The same skills I'd once used to polish Nathan's image were now for me. PR, consulting, brand strategy, work that had always been mine before I gave it up for his dreams. Clients came quickly. Referrals even faster. People respected resilience, and my story carried weight. In Memphis, word traveled, and soon my schedule was full. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was thriving. Occasionally, I heard whispers of Nathan. Someone spotted him at a rundown bar. Another said he was crashing on a friend's couch. His name appeared less and less, fading from relevance. The empire he once flaunted was gone. The mistress who thought she replaced me was gone. Nathan himself became little more than a cautionary tale. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. His downfall wasn't my prize. My prize was freedom. Freedom to live without him. One evening, Mia and I sat on the porch watching fireflies. She leaned against me and said, "Mommy, you're really strong." I smiled, pressing a kiss to her hair. "You are too, baby. Stronger than you know." That moment mattered more than any courtroom victory or financial settlement. Strength wasn't just what I claimed for myself, it was what I passed down to her. The city eventually forgot the details. Hashtags died down. Gossip shifted. But I never forgot. Not the betrayal, not the humiliation, and not the way I rose from it. Some nights, when the house was quiet, I thought about the necklace, the heirloom that started it all. It sat safely in my drawer again, back where it belonged. For a while, I couldn't bear to look at it. Now I saw it differently, not as a reminder of loss, but as a symbol of endurance. My mother's strength had carried me through, even when I thought I'd break, and I carried that strength forward. Nathan never got back what he lost. Not the company, not the money, not the family. Last I heard, he was bouncing between odd jobs, crashing on couches, still blaming everyone but himself. I didn't hate him anymore. Hatred only gives people power. He was irrelevant. Freedom wasn't the absence of pain. It was choosing to stop living in it. When I looked at my reflection now, I didn't see the broken woman from the gala, frozen as another woman flaunted my mother's necklace. I saw someone sharper, steadier, unafraid. A woman who had walked through fire and come out unburned. Betrayal had nearly destroyed me. Instead, it transformed me. And in that transformation, I found everything I thought I had lost. Myself, my future, my peace. Thank you for watching my story. If it resonated with you, click that hype button to keep the energy going. Share your thoughts or even your own experiences in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Your voice matters here, and don't forget to subscribe and tap the like button so you never miss another story like this. Every click, every comment, every bit of support helps this channel grow, and together we can keep sharing these powerful stories.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.